Hello developers, welcome back. Next in the Vue 3 series, we will see suspense and lazy load components. So what exactly is suspense? Suspense is a boundary inside our application that controls how our synchronous content should be loaded. That means Vue 3 knows how to listen for any promise and going to show some fallback content like loading content until promise has been resolved. When promise is resolved, Vue suspense going to show actual content. Let's try this. So in the source directory, in the components, here I'll create new directory suspense, and in this suspense directory I'll create suspense example.vue. In h1 tag suspense example. Now let's register this component in the app.vue. Right here, let's comment this and import components suspense example component, and right here in these components uncomment these and register our suspense example component. Now in the template, comment this, and here we will display suspense example component tag. Now let's go to browser and see, and here is the suspense example. Now we have suspense example component. Let's say in this example I want to display users component, and this users component has list of users, so we need to create this users component also. Let's create this. So in the suspense directory we have users.view. In h2 tag users, and now in the suspense example let's import this users and register in the components. Now let's see in the browser, and here we have users and it's working. Now in this users component I'm going to fetch some users from the API. For that I will use this JSON placeholder API, which give us some users in the JSON format, and I'm going to use Axios to fetch the users from this API. So we need to install Axios. So in the terminal npm install Axios. Now it's done. Next, npm run serve. Now in the users component, here first let's import Axios, and next here I'll create a setup method, and let's say here we have a variable const users. We're going to use ref. Initially it is null, and then here I'll say axios.get, and here I'll pass this JSON placeholder API, and then we will have response, and we will say users.value is equal to response.data, and I will return that users. Now we will display that users right here. So here I'll say div, and we know that this user is array, so we will say v-4 user in users, and then here I'll say key user.id, and next let's display user.name. Now let's see this in browser and refresh, and here we have users data. And if we want to display loading test, then we will say const loading, and then ref initially loading is true. When it is done, here we will say loading dot value false. Next here I'll add new div. In this div we will display loading text, and here I'll say v if loading, else we will display users data. Now we go to browser, let's open the inspect tool, and in the network tab I'm going to set fast 3G. Now refresh. Didn't see any loading. I just forget to return this loading right here. So now go back, refresh, and we first see the loading text, and then when component is loaded and it displayed the all users, and it is working fine, nothing wrong here. We can achieve the same goal using suspense component, and I feel using suspense component it is much clean and give us the more control how this component should render. So let's try the suspense. So first we no longer need this loading because we are going to handle it in the suspense. Let's remove this, and here we're going to remove this PLs and also remove this. Now let's say this setup is a synchronous method, and next here I'll say const response, and here I'll say await axios, and next we no longer need this, so we'll remove it, and here I'll say users dot value is equal to response dot data. Now if we go to browser and refresh, we did not get any content here. Let's open the inspect tool and in the console, and also we don't have any error. So why this data is not printed? The reason is that because of this async setup method. So to display this user in the parent component, in our case that is suspense example component, here I'll wrap this users tag in the suspense tag, and this suspense has two slots. One is the template and this is the hash default. This default going to display these users when the promise is resolved. Next is the template fallback. This fallback component is going to render if the promise is not resolved, and in this slot we will display the content like loading text or skeleton loading component. In our case here I will display div loading. Now let's go to browser. Now refresh. Here first it has displayed the loading, and when promise is resolved it has displayed the all users. Now here one thing you should remember, that in the console it has displayed a text. The suspense is an experimental feature and its API will likely change. So at the time of recording, this suspense is an experimental feature, so in the future its API can be changed. Next I want to show you onErrorCaptured hook. So let's assume if we got any error right here in this users component, we can catch that error in the parent component right here using onErrorCaptured hook. Let's try this. So here I'm going to create set a function, and let's say it has const error message, and initially it is null. Now here I will use onErrorCaptured hook and make sure it is import from the Vue library, and then here we will pass the closure function. It is going to accept error, then here I will say error message dot value is equal to, let's say, something went wrong, and then let's return this error message. We are not using this error variable, so let's remove it. And next here I'll say div and display the error message v-if error message, and if we don't have any message then display the suspense content, so v-else is done. Now if we go to browser, refresh, so far everything is working. So to generate error, I'm going to disconnect my Wi-Fi, So it should throw error right here when it is trying to fetch data from this JSON placeholder API. Now I have disconnected the Wi-Fi, so go to browser, refresh, and here it has displayed the error message. Now I'm going to turn on my Wi-Fi, refresh, and now it is working. We get the error of this Axios in the parent component using the onErrorCaptured hook. Next we will see lazy loading component, and that is very important to know if you are building a SPA application, because this lazy load component going to load on demand and it is going to improve the performance of the application a lot. Let's try this. So in the users component, here we are displaying the all user from the API. Let's extract this into the single user component. So here I'll create a new component, user.view, and I'm going to copy this from here and paste it here to remove this for loop. And next it is going to accept props user, and it is going to be object. Remove this style. Now in the users component, here I'm going to import user. Now register that component. So here I'll say components user component. Now right here we will say user component and copy this for loop, paste it here, and now remove it. Next I'll pass user prop. Now go to browser, refresh, it's working fine. Next we will convert this user component into the asynchronous component. So instead of using this import, I'm going to comment this and const user is equal to define asynchronous component, and make sure that is imported right here from the Vue library, and it is going to accept a closure function, and here I'll say import user like this. Now if we go to browser and in the network tag, now if I refresh this page, this time it is going to load 0.js, and right now in the network tab you will not find that JS file. Now if I refresh, now here you will see 0.js, and that is the user.view. How I know that? If we open this and search here user.view, and here you will see user.view. And if you want, you can also rename this using the webpack command. For that, here we need to specify command webpack chunk name user. Webpack going to read this comment and it is going to rename the 0.js to user.js. Let's see. Now refresh. Now here you will see we have user.js and it has displayed the all users. This is all in this lesson. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, hit the like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe us. See you in the next lesson.